Well, now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Suzanne Doyle-Ingram. Suzanne, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, I've been looking forward to this conversation because you've got your business where you're helping people to write and publish their own book, not just people in general, but specifically business people. And it's such an interesting area. And I know that everybody or almost everybody I speak to in business has got a book hidden somewhere deep within them. But you haven't always been doing this, have you?
No, that's true. I have not. I've only been doing this for 12 years.
12 years is quite a stretch, but let's go back. So you're in Canada. What part of Canada are you in?
I'm in Vancouver on the West Coast.
All right. So take us back to the earlier days of Suzanne. Where did you grow up? What was school like? And take us right back so we can start right. Because we like to connect with people, and often people do connect when they hear the backstory of somebody.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a little town just outside of Vancouver, Canada. And I did all the normal things like kids do. I was a dancer and I joined a dance company and that kind of thing. And eventually I realized I didn't want to dance for a living. So I got my degree in linguistics. And after that, I went, okay, how am I going to pay all these student loans back? So I moved to Japan and I lived in Japan for 3 years and I taught English in 6 different junior high schools. And I loved it. And I was there with my now ex-husband, who was my husband at the time. And it was a great experience. Even our oldest daughter's name is Japanese. Her name is Hannah, and it's spelled Hana, which means little beautiful flower. So Japan has always been with me since then. And so when we came home to Canada, I felt I was just ready to take on the world. I spoke 3 languages, English, French, and Japanese. I had a university degree, and I felt like I could just do anything, but I couldn't get a decent job. And it was so frustrating. And I really didn't have any corporate experience at all, even though I had run a nonprofit literacy organization when I was at university. But I was a little bit frustrated, but eventually I worked for a Korean company that was really, really great. He hired me because of my experience in Japan. I learned a lot about import, export, and the Korean culture, and I loved it. And then one day I was at a party, and we had to play Trivial Pursuit. And I was partnered up with somebody I didn't know. And it just so happened that every single question had to be something to do with words. And I kept getting them all right. And to the point where people are like, who is this? Like, it was just a fluke. Because if it had questions about sports or geography or history, I wouldn't have gotten anything right. But anyways, I was just, shining like a star. And so the man that was my partner said to me, I want to talk to you. I want to hire you. Who are you? So he hired me to work for his marketing company. And it was sales, it was commission only. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, what if I need a guarantee? I'd never had, a job where it was up to me. I had always been on salary, but I loved it. It was great. So I eventually, I'm getting to the point about the terrible thing that happened. I eventually started my own marketing agency because that company got sold. And I thought, this is great, making really good money. And I was really happy and I loved my clients. And then 2008 hit, and the economy crashed. A lot of my clients were American, and I had Quest Communications, which got bought out by CenturyTel, but like big phone companies, and Cirque du Soleil was one of our clients. And, I didn't realize that everything could come crashing down, and everything did. I kind of limped along for 2009. And by 2010, my income was down to about $30,000 a year. And I just thought, I can't handle this and I can't live. I have 3 kids and a husband. And so the hardest part was I thought that I was totally alone. I didn't really realize that all the other business owners were going through it too. And I felt like a total failure. I felt like an absolute loser, to be honest. That's such a terrible word, but because I had lost like everything. And I kept thinking, why isn't this working? Not really realizing that the economy was affecting, like there was this ripple effect on everyone, right? Everybody stopped spending money on marketing. So it was a really, really, really terrible time, just being completely broke. Couldn't couldn't pay for my kids' swimming lessons, couldn't, put them in dance classes or anything else. And I didn't want to tell anybody. I felt like I couldn't tell anybody. So it was a lot of shame around that too.
Well, so there's some real high points there in your backstory and some real obvious low points as well. And an academic, traveled to a different country, taught English in Japan. Mm-hmm. You mentioned 3 children, and then you mentioned the 2008 change in circumstances, and so your business changed. You found yourself almost by default, it sounded like, in marketing and running what became a very high-profile marketing agency with big-name clients, and then 2008. But just because I heard you say lost everything, and I heard you say I felt like a loser. What did that look like when you woke up in the morning, any morning during that? What does the day look like for someone feeling like I've lost everything, I feel like a loser?
I had very negative self-talk. It was really bad. I felt like it was almost like I was looking for evidence of being a failure. And so when something wouldn't go wrong, my brain would go, see, that's because you're a failure. You can't do anything right. And it was so debilitating to have that negative self-talk. And by the way, during all of this, around 2009, someone who worked for me, who was my salesperson, he left my company and took the remaining clients with him. So on top of this failure, I had this betrayal, just enormous proportion, where I just felt so sad about it, just so deeply, deeply hurt and betrayed and sad. And so I don't know if I was technically, clinically depressed, but I certainly wasn't very happy. And it affects everything. My parenting probably wasn't that great because I was just frustrated. And every day I'd go to my desk and I'd go, okay, what can I do to make some money? And I just felt like I was grasping at straws, and I felt stupid because the things that I had always done weren't working.
Wow, I know that there'd be more than one person who can relate to what you just said then. I mean, I can relate to that, what you just said then, sitting at the computer, sitting at your desk and thinking, how am I going to make money today? How can I make money today? How can I bring in a new...
Oh, it's so awful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is debilitating. It is such high pressure. And there's so many people, Suzanne, who do feel that, given what we've been through, everyone's been through in the past couple of years.
Yes.
Have to change things and start working from home, running a business from home, running a business online for the first time. What's it all about? It's a whole new world, isn't it, for a lot of people?
Yes.
Well, so you're obviously not in that place now, which is terrific. So yeah,
that's true. Thank God.
Yeah, so Suzanne, congratulations on turning it around. I'm interested still just to stay for just a moment longer at that time. There was obviously, no, that's an assumption. What did happen? Was there a defining moment you can recall where there was a turnaround, when the transformation really started for you?
I think it was really when I had to admit to myself that the marketing agency company was not working anymore. And it just wasn't going to happen. And I couldn't do it anymore. And I had to do something completely different. And I had some savings. And so I was able to just sometimes even during the work week, sometimes you just pause and you go, okay, wait a second.
Yeah.
What do I want to achieve here? And so I really decided, since I felt like I was starting at zero, I decided if I could create a life and a business that I love, what would it look like? And I literally created what I wanted. And, it was funny. I was invited to kind of like a mastermind retreat event. And I thought, there's got to be some kind of mistake. Why did they invite me? Like, all these amazing people are going, and then me. And I was part of that journey down to San Diego and staying in this big mansion. And I was invited for free. I kept thinking, there's got to be some mistake. And I said to my mom, I said, do you think I should go to this thing? And I don't know. I feel like I don't have anything to contribute. And I don't know really why they asked me. Like maybe it's some like weird, like, I don't know, thing. What if they try to kidnap me or something? My mom goes, oh, sweetheart. She goes, if they were trying to kidnap you, they'd probably choose somebody younger. But that's how my brain was working. I kept thinking like, so that mastermind was great too, because I met some really successful people who had really great head on their shoulders. And it made me go like, ding, I can create a life that I love, and I can work with people I want to work with, and I can do what I want. But at this point, I still didn't know what to do. So I was still kind of like, I invested in programs and stuff that wasn't really for me.
What kind of, well, hang on a moment. So you were invited to a mastermind as a participant or as a presenter?
As a participant. So it was somebody I had met at a conference years earlier.
Okay.
When the pre-crash, and he just called me up one day, and when I met him, I really liked him. I thought he was a really nice man, and he had 3 kids, and I had 3 kids, and he was very professional and everything. And so he said, oh, I'm involved with this mastermind group of people, and we're having a retreat, and we want more women, is what he said. He goes, it's usually just guys, so we want more women. And I thought of you, and I thought it'd be great to invite you. And I was like, oh, I don't think he really knows like what a failure I am.
So was this you describing a bit of imposter syndrome happening there?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But I think like deep down inside, I knew I had what it takes.
Yes.
I just knew that I needed to create a new business, and just learn to be to give myself some grace and to be kind to myself.
Oh, I love hearing that. Deep down, I knew, quote unquote, deep down, I knew that there was quote unquote. And I think that is such important truth for our audience to hear you say, Suzanne, because deep down within every audience member watching you now on YouTube or listening to you on a podcast platform, deep down within them is that same strength and ability as well. All right, so you've known setbacks, you've known adversity, and you've known what transformation or coming through to the other side is like. And so it sounds like the invitation that you got to the mastermind was a catalyst or a springboard for what would become the transformation and leading to this new life of doing what you love and being good at it for the past 12 years, which is helping business people and business professionals to write their own book and publish their own book. So let's start talking about that. And here's the question. Why don't more people write the book that they want to write?
Oh, I ask myself that all the time. Mostly because they don't have a mentor, they don't have a plan, they feel like they don't have time, but it's really hard to write a book if you don't know where to start, And there's lots of book coaches out there. I love coaching, but I think that for a business book, what I teach is a little different than other people because I teach to start with the end in mind and then to reverse engineer it. So we really do a lot of work before you even start writing your book. We do a lot of work on the foundational pieces, like who you're writing it for and why you're writing it, and what keeps your audience up at night, to figure out what to put in the book.
Okay. All right. So this started. So what was the beginning of what is now Prominence Publishing? And is it right? Did I read it right? You've
Yes,
actually assisted over. Okay. Prominence Publishing. It's prominencepublishing.com is your website. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So that's where people can go. Our audience members can go to see more about what you're doing, Suzanne, and how our audience can get in contact with you.
Thank you.
So
how it started.
What's that?
I said, so how it started.
Yeah. So what's the logistics of it then? Let's presume somebody who's introduced to you for the first time on this podcast, and they do visit your website and they fill out a contact form or they send you an email. What happens? What's the process?
Well, what we do is we usually have a strategy call together, and I want to know about their business and about, what they're currently doing for marketing, and what their ideas are for their book, and what their goal is for their book, and how they think a book can help them. Because I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but I know a lot about books and about Amazon and how to use a book as a marketing tool. So the way that I teach, my whole philosophy is not about selling books. It's about having the book sell you.
Oh, that's important.
Very important.
Could you repeat that, please, Suzanne?
It's not about selling books. It's about having the book sell you.
Wow, that's profound.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it resonated with you.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happens is a lot of times people write a book and then they think they're going to sit around and eat bonbons, and Amazon is going to send them checks for thousands and thousands of dollars because everyone's going to go racing over there and miraculously find their book and buy it. And it's going to change lives. But really what happens is you get your book on Amazon and nothing happens. Then you have to do the work. It's what I call beyond the book. So then the juicy stuff happens where you can use your book to get booked as a speaker, to get on a podcast, to get maybe do a TED Talk, and to create an online course and all these other things. And you can build a whole business around it, but the book can't be just the business. The business can't be just the book, is what I'm trying to say. There's other things that you need to do.
So somebody who, I imagine that a lot of business people who have got that book within them, and they are thinking, I'm going to write the book that I've always wanted to write. I'm not going to go to my grave with a book that's unpublished within me. And and I can imagine a lot of business people thinking that the book is going to make them a lot of money. It is going to be a passive source of income, but you've really quite clarified that made it clear that it's quite the opposite. I suppose sales can come in and there can be some money, but not substantial. It's using in the old vernacular, it's using a book as a business card. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes.
All right,
so that's what I teach. And I explain to people, I even a lot of what I do really is business coaching, because I have them understand what their average customer value is. So I work with a lot of coaches, chiropractors, realtors, dog trainers, like it's everything. I've worked with over 1,000 people. So lots of cybersecurity guys lately. And so we look at, when a prospect comes to you and they become a customer over the course of the time that they're with you, how much money does that person spend with you on average? And I actually help them with a little formula to figure it out. So they know one customer might be $3,000 or $10,000 or $100,000, whatever it is. And then I say, why would you're a busy business person, why would you want a new job trying to sell books so you can make $4? So don't even think about it. Think about using your book to get in front of your audience so that they can discover who you are. In your book, you're going to write about how you help your current clients, stories about the transformation that occurred for them as a result of working with you. And then the reader goes, oh, I want that too. I'm going to call Mike. I'm going to call him up and get a strategy call with him, or whatever the call to action is. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's strategy calls. Sometimes it's, with the chiropractor, it's, she gives her book to new patients and different things like that. But I was just thinking, I wanted to, earlier in the interview, for some reason, I think I spun the question around, but I wanted to tell you about how I got into writing books. Would that be okay? Because it's a funny story.
Yes, please tell the story.
Okay, so when I was trying to figure out what to do for a living after my marketing agency bombed, I thought maybe I'll write a book. But I still was feeling like a failure. So what I did was I wrote it under a fake name because I didn't want anybody to know that it was me, because I thought it would totally fail. So when I'm doing webinars and stuff, I show the cover of it because it's so funny. I'm like, yeah, that's my book, and it's a fake name.
What was the pseudonym?
Well, my first name's Suzanne, and then my dad's name Leonard. So I did it under Suzanne Leonard.
All right.
Yeah. And it was just a gluten-free recipe book. It was not a big deal. But what happened was gluten-free was really trendy at the time. So it became a bestseller just because I knew a little bit about SEO and marketing. And And then I was kind of going, hey, that's me, even though it's not my name. It's really kind of embarrassing. But I wrote a whole bunch of more books. And that year, I wrote 7 books. And I was getting some nice checks from Amazon.
Sorry, pause. In 1 year, you wrote 7 books?
Yes. And I was very tired.
I bet you were.
I know. I would put my kids to bed. I had 3 little kids at the time, and I would write from 10 o'clock till midnight. But I needed money.
Right.
So you got to do what you got to do. And the thing is, they weren't that interesting. Like I wrote a book about how to take care of your new baby and a whole bunch of gluten-free recipe books. And then I wrote one book called, I was going to do a whole series for women entrepreneurs called See Jane Grow. And that was a flop. Nobody bought it. Very few people bought it. So I kind of got curious. I was like, oh, okay, what's the difference? And I realized that women entrepreneurs weren't looking for that book. But I did get asked to work for a nonprofit organization who had just received money to look at how they could help women entrepreneurs grow their businesses and why women go out of business faster than men, why women make less money than men. So I was like, oh, that's so crazy. I touched on that in the book that I wrote that nobody bought. And they're like, well, that's how we found you. I'm like,
oh,
like, no one bought that. Like, I shouldn't say no one. I might have sold 100 copies, but I was so surprised. So I realized I got a 5-month contract with them, working with these 2 women-owned businesses. And I even said to them, I'm not a coach. I just know about a little bit about business. And then I got a couple of other contracts that year. And bottom line is that year I made more money from those contracts than I did from all book sales combined. So that's when I shifted my business and I started teaching. I started teaching local business people how to write a book. And I would do a 1-day workshop for $100. And then I'd get 20 people to sign up and I'd make $2,000 in 1 day. And I was over the moon. I was so excited. So excited.
$2,000 in 1 day is life-changing for someone who needs money and for most people.
Well, exactly. Oh, it still is. Still is good money.
It's very good money. So let me just wind back a bit. 7 books in a year. So you started writing books and you were writing prolifically. So, okay, there's writing the book and you help business people to write the book. You mentioned earlier that you talk with them about what could the book be and the planning and all that. But to fast forward, so there's the writing of the book. The book's written. With your first 7 books, for example, were they ebooks? Were they published hard copy books? Was every book taken up by an established publisher, or was it Amazon or Kindle?
Okay, so they were some of them were Kindle and some were both Kindle and paperback, and they were all self-published on Amazon.
Okay.
And so back then, I was teaching people how to self-publish, and I would have I have a program called the Expert Author Program, which I still have to this day. It's amazing. I've been teaching the same thing for 12 years. But I remember saying to them, okay, so now your book is done. Okay, perfect. Here's how you put it on Amazon. You go click, 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 click. And they'd be like, wait. And I'm like, oh, it's so easy. Click, 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 click. This is how you do it. And then finally, one of my dear clients said to me, can I be honest with you? You're insulting me. She said, you keep saying to me, it's so easy. She goes, it is not easy for me. And I would like to pay you to do it for me. And I was like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. You can do it. You just click. And she just went like, take my money, please. I don't want to do this. I'm busy running my business. So I went, okay. And that's when I started the Prominence Publishing part of the business and started publishing books for people. And now it's grown quite a bit because now I have a director of publishing named Beth Nightingale, who's lovely, and I have an assistant, and we have editors and cover designers and interior typesetters, a whole team of people. And but we still are kind of a boutique firm because we're sort of in between self-publishing and traditional publishing. We let the authors retain the rights to their book, and we give them all their files and everything like that. Very, very collaborative work. So some people can write a book with using my program and then go and self-publish it, but most people say, please publish it for me. And then we have a whole, marketing machine behind it.
So I'm going to say this, Suzanne, that most entrepreneurial people I know, most business people I know, control freaks. And I'm one, for example. That's why I can say that. And I know that a lot of control freaks would think, well, I'm going to do it myself. I just reckon I can do it myself. I'm going to do it myself. What are the mistakes you see in someone who, what are the mistakes you see in people having a crack at this process of writing and publishing a book themselves?
Well, yes. Okay. So usually what happens is they don't know what they're doing. That's the main thing. They don't know what they're doing. And they don't really understand the process that has to occur. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is people using their web designer to do their book cover design or their interior typesetting. Sometimes it's very, very expensive because they don't know where to go. They don't know how to hire this person. And a cover designer and a web designer are completely different designers. Completely. I don't care if your website is award-winning, the best website that's ever been built in the entire world. That person generally cannot design a book cover. And, as a matter of fact, over the years, we've had people every now and then that come to us that say, hey, we really want to hire your firm to publish our book for us, but our cover's already done. So initially, I would say, okay, well, let me just take a little bit off the overall price if your cover's already done. But now we charge more if their cover's already done because it's 100% of the time, it's not approved by Amazon because they don't know what they're doing. And I don't mean to be rude, but it's like, we know what we're doing. Because the thing is, it's just very strict specifications for the cover. And I've even had people who own design companies. I don't know why, they just can't get it right. But
what about the person who thinks, Suzanne, or is thinking right now, yes, but I can go into Canva and use a template. What would you say to that person?
You can. Totally. Sure, you can. But you're not a book cover designer. So you actually don't know what needs to go on it. And so I'll just give you an example. I ran into 3 women at a conference before COVID. And they said, oh, you're a book publisher. We wrote a book. And they took the book out of the bag and they shoved it at me. And I was like, wow, congratulations. That's so great. Like, good for you. But I opened it up and they didn't have page numbers, and their table of contents obviously didn't have page numbers. And it was all hyperlinks, like blue underline, like it was just a disaster. So I think the biggest risk is looking unprofessional. And so I think how we work with control freaks is we check in every step of the way. They have to approve everything that we do. So we say, what do you think of these 3 covers? Don't like any of them? Okay, what do you think of these 9 covers? And then, oh, you like the blue, but you don't like this font. Okay, so we want our clients to be really happy with it. But if they wanted to do it themselves, then they absolutely can. I mean, you can learn anything you want to learn on YouTube, right? But I just think everybody should stay in their zone of genius. And if you're running your bicycle manufacturing company or whatever you're doing, do that and do that really, really well. But really, it's a huge learning curve, especially when you get your book on Amazon, understanding what categories and what keywords to use. We have software for that. I mean, it totally can be done yourself. But I think sometimes it's better to just write the check and let the professionals do it. I mean, I don't do my own oil change. My dad taught me how to do an oil change a long, long time ago, but I don't do my own oil change on my car.
Good point. And I think there is a flip side to the coin of being a control freak entrepreneur who wants to do everything yourself because you think, well, done yourself is done better. But the flip side is that there is a return on investment in delegation and outsourcing and getting things done so that you, the business person, can focus on your, focus on your business and let someone like Suzanne focus on what she does best, and that's her business. Now, back in the day, before the internet, I can remember self-publishers like Robert J. Ringer published Looking Out for Number One, and Wayne Dyer with Erroneous Zones, and did a 2-year tour around the radio stations of America, across and back and forth America. But of course, that's not how it's done today, is it? So let's just put ourselves into the picture. an entrepreneur or business person listening to you, viewing you, Suzanne, makes contact with you, engages with you or hires you to help them write the book, publish the book. And you mentioned that that's when the work can start after the book's published. So what can our audience member expect has to happen to help promote the book and make it become their modern day business card to bring them in new customers, new clients, new patients?
Perfect. Thanks for asking that. That's great. So usually we start out with 15 basic things they need to do as soon as their book comes out. So one thing I like to teach my clients is to be humble about it. To always look for opportunities where you can mention something about the book, but you're not constantly saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. You never want to say, hey, could you do me a favor and buy my book? You want to come across like you're in a position of authority. So I like my clients to have a visual representation of their book. So their book cover in like a nice 3D image of a book cover on their LinkedIn, on their website, on their Facebook, on their Instagram. So you don't have to be saying constantly, I'm an author, I'm an author, I'm an author. Do you remember when Tom Cruise fell in love with Katie Holmes and he went on the Oprah Winfrey show and he jumped up and down on the couch? I don't want you to do that.
Right. I've got a book, I've got a book, I've got a book.
Yeah. Buy my book. My book is the best thing ever. Because people are like, we are so tired of hearing about you talk about your book. They just turn off, right? So instead, let's say, for example, you write a book about cybersecurity, which is just on my mind because I'm working on another one right now. So you could say, oh, there was a cyber breach at XYZ company. I talk about this in my book a little bit, so you can sort of subtly mention the book. So that's a really important thing to do. Also, like I said, let the book sell you. So we want you to be visible everywhere. You've got to start getting on social media, whatever your goals are for your particular business. So if you're a coach, you probably want more coaching clients. You might want people to enroll in your online program. Some people don't have an online program yet. So we can literally use the outline for the book for the outline for the online program. And we've helped people do TED Talks, and a couple of my clients have TV shows now. So it's just amazing what you can do. But, you just have to take it one step at a time. And it really doesn't have to be that complicated. I know people who take 2 or 3 years to create a course. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Sometimes you have to build the plane as you fly it. So you could enroll 10 people into your course and then just deliver one lesson every week live on Zoom. Then you got your course. You can tell by my voice that I get really excited about this.
I can see it. I can sense it, and it's terrific. And I can imagine that, somebody who is contemplating working with you would feel that as well and want to connect with you and engage your services. And is there a time frame generally, or is it totally unique and specific to each client? From soup to nuts, for example, what kind of a time frame are we looking at for working with a client, helping them write and publish their own book?
Okay. Well, depends on what their goals are. So sometimes we have people that say, I just got invited to speak at a conference and I need to bring a book with me. So then there's a couple different types of books that we teach. So I would recommend for them something quick and easy, like a tips book where you say 27 ways to, grow your business or fix your health or whatever, right? So those sorts of books can be written in 30 days. I've run a program called the 30-day book program, a quick book like that. But if you're writing your kind of like your real book that sort of explains who you are, what you stand for, the way you work with people, the results that you get for people, that type of book, I say give it 6 months. And sometimes people can do it in less, but I think 6 months is a great goal to have. And then usually our publishing services take 3 to 4 months after that because we go through the editing process and everything like that. And then the Beyond the Book program, if someone, is fully in with us and they want to stick around, Beyond the Book is 1 year long, and it's really about getting everything in place. And, you mentioned ROI before. I don't give any guarantees in writing, but personally, I want my clients to get their investment back ×2 in terms of how many clients they get and, how their whole business changes after we work together.
Well, it's a repeat return on investment because the book is going to not be around just for 12 months,
Exactly.
but then there could be revised editions and republished versions, so it might be times 2, times 10 after that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've obviously got the gift of the gab. You find it easy to express yourself, and maybe
Yes.
our audience are the same, being business people, entrepreneurs. If they're very likely, like for a coach or a chiropractor, you mentioned chiropractors, they're working with people, so they have to express themselves. But what about the person who can express themselves verbally, but feels imposter syndrome or even inhibited in being able to put pen to paper and express themselves in writing? How do you help them?
Well, so a couple different points I want to touch on that you just mentioned. So the imposter syndrome, I teach all my clients how to get testimonials from their previous clients. And the beautiful thing about that is it's amazing to read them where you're like, wow, this person really liked me. It's like, and every now and then you got to read them again to go, yeah, I do know what I'm doing. I don't have imposter syndrome anymore, but I did for a long time. And so the way that we teach how to write a book with a really strict outline where we go, okay, these are the 10 main points of your book. What are the subpoints that you want to say about those things? Then let's put some supporting material in there, maybe some research in there, maybe a nice inspirational quote, or maybe a story about a client. So it's literally like a software that you fill in all the blanks. And so before somebody starts writing their book, I look at their outline personally, and I go, you're not ready. I want more information here. I want more information here. And I make them, it's kind of like a horse that's waiting to go to on the race. The horse, what do they call that? The horse at the beginning of the race? Whatever. I don't know what it's called. They're like, the hoof in the dirt. Come on, let me go. So when finally, I don't mean to make it sound like, the Queen Suzanne waves her wand, but it's like, finally, I'm like, okay, now you can write, because I've seen it over and over again. When you try to write a book without that outline totally done, it doesn't work. You're just going to go, what am I writing today? So now it's so much easier. You don't have to have a gift for the gap. You already know what you're going to write based on your outline.
All right. Well, Suzanne Doyle-Ingram, founder and CEO of ProminencePublishing.com, a business, a company, an outfit that has helped over 1,000 professionals and business people write and publish their own book. And it sounds like if you, the audience member, have some inspiration ignited within you, it's time to get your book that's hiding within out, then it sounds like Suzanne is the right person to connect with. Suzanne Doyle-Ingram at ProminencePublishing.com. What are your last parting words for our audience, Suzanne? Words of wisdom, can be anything at all, can be a favourite quote, anything you want to leave our audience, the parting thought.
I would like to say that everything you need is already inside of you, that you already have what it takes, and you are a gift to the world. And right now, somebody is looking for you, can't find you. So it's time to stop dimming your light, let it shine, and get out there.
I love it. And I think our audience will love it too. Thank you, Suzanne, so much for joining us on the Comeback Coach podcast. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, it's Mike Searles signing off. Stay with me, Suzanne. I'm going to stop recording. Have a big cough. I've been wanting to do that for a while.
Oh, you've been holding it in.
I should have coughed and just, edited it out, but let me just stop recording here.